I first saw the house just before sunset. I pulled my car over to the side of the quiet suburban street. It was one of those small American towns where everything feels too still, too quiet. The houses were lined up neatly, each one looking almost identical. Clean lawns, closed windows, empty driveways. But there was something off. There were no people outside. No kids, no neighbors, no movement. Just silence. I stepped out of the car and looked at the house. It looked completely normal. A two-story wooden house painted white, a bit old but not in bad condition. The front yard was dry, the grass slightly overgrown. There was a rocking chair on the porch, slowly moving back and forth. I stopped. The wind wasn't strong enough to move it like that. Probably just the wind, I muttered to myself. This was my new house. I had gotten it for a price that didn't make sense. Way too cheap. I knew something had to be wrong, but I needed a place, a fresh start, so I didn't ask too many questions. I walked up to the front door and unlocked it. The moment I stepped inside, a cold wave of air hit my face. The interior was empty but clean. Wooden floors, plain walls, faint signs of age. No smell, no damage, nothing unusual. Everything looked fine. Too fine. I checked every room. Living room, kitchen, upstairs bedrooms. All normal. Then I noticed the basement door. It was under the stairs, slightly hidden in the shadows. I stood in front of it for a moment. Something about it didn't feel right. I reached for the handle, then stopped. For no reason at all, I felt like I shouldn't open it. I let out a small laugh. Get a grip. I opened the door. Darkness. I found the switch and turned on the light. An old basement, a few dusty boxes, cobwebs in the corners. Nothing else. I closed the door and went back upstairs. That night, I went to sleep without thinking much about it. Sometime later, I woke up. A sharp sound pulled me out of sleep. Knocking. I stayed still, listening. There it was again. Slow, clear, right at the front door. I checked the time. 3:17 a.m. I got up and walked downstairs. The knocking continued. I stopped in front of the door. Who is it? No answer. I looked through the small glass panel. No one was outside. The street was empty, covered in a thin layer of fog. I hesitated, then opened the door. Cold air rushed in. There was no one there. I stepped outside for a second, looked around. Nothing. I went back in and locked the door. Maybe it was just someone messing around. That's what I told myself. The next day, everything felt normal again. Sunlight made the house look harmless, almost welcoming. I went into town to buy some basic things. At a small store, an older man started talking to me. "You new here?" he asked. "Yeah, just moved into the White House down the street." He went quiet. Then he said, "That house." I smiled. "What about it?" He looked at me for a few seconds, then shook his head. "Just be careful at night." I didn't take him seriously. That night I stayed awake. I wanted to see what was really happening. I sat in the living room, watching the clock. 3:00, 3:10, 3:17. Nothing happened. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. Yeah, I figured. As I stood up, a loud noise came from upstairs. Something heavy hitting the floor. I froze. Then I walked toward the stairs. Each step felt louder than it should. When I reached the top, everything looked normal. Except one thing. A door was open. I was sure I had closed it. I moved closer and stepped inside the room. It was empty. Completely empty. Then I glanced at the mirror near the window, and my body locked up. There was someone standing behind me. I turned instantly. No one. I looked back at the mirror. Nothing. My breathing became uneven. I told myself it wasn't real. Just stress, lack of sleep. I left the room and headed back downstairs. Halfway down the steps, I heard something behind me. A slow creaking sound. I turned. The basement door was opening. By itself. I stood there, unable to move. The darkness inside felt deeper than before. Then a voice came from below. Soft. Close. You came back. My chest tightened. I had never been here before. So who was it talking to? I didn't respond. I couldn't. My body felt locked in place, like something was holding me there. The basement door stayed open. The darkness inside didn't look normal. It felt thick, like it was waiting. I forced myself to move. One step back, then another. The voice didn't speak again. I quickly turned and walked to the front door, unlocking it with shaking hands. I stepped outside, breathing hard, scanning the empty street like I expected someone to be there. But it was just like before. Silent. Still. I stayed outside for a few minutes, trying to calm down. Then I went back in. I told myself I needed to stay in control. Panicking wouldn't help. I locked the door and avoided looking at the basement. That night, I didn't sleep. By morning, everything felt different. Not the house. Me. The sunlight came in through the windows, making everything look normal again. The basement door was closed, like nothing had happened. I walked over to it slowly. I didn't remember closing it. I stood there for a long time, staring at the handle. Then I walked away. Later that day, I went back into town. I needed answers. The same old man was there, sitting outside the store. He looked at me the moment I arrived. "You stay the night," he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. He studied my face carefully. "Did you hear it?" I hesitated, then said, "There's something in that house." He let out a slow breath. "People say things about that place," he said. "Strange things." "Like what?" He looked around before speaking again. "They say the house doesn't stay the same at night." I frowned. "What does that mean?" He didn't answer directly. "Family lived there years ago, just disappeared. No bodies, no signs of leaving. One day they were there, next day gone." I felt a cold sensation run down my spine. "What about the voice?" I asked. That made him pause. Then he said quietly, "It talks to people differently." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It doesn't always say the same thing." I left the store with more questions than answers. That evening, I bought cameras. If something was happening inside that house, I wanted proof. I set them up in the living room, hallway, and facing the basement door. I made sure everything was recording. That night, I stayed in the living room again. Watching. Waiting. The clock moved slowly. 3:16. I leaned forward. 3:17. Nothing. I didn't relax this time. I kept watching. A few seconds passed. Then, the basement door handle moved. Slowly. Deliberately. I froze. The door creaked open. The camera pointed directly at it. I grabbed my phone, checking the live feed. It was recording. The door opened halfway, then stopped. The darkness inside looked wrong again. Too deep. Like it wasn't just a basement. I stood up without thinking. Step by step, I walked toward it. Every instinct told me to stop. But I didn't. I reached the door. The air coming from below felt colder than before. I picked up a flashlight and turned it on. The beam of light cut through the darkness. Same stairs. Same walls. Nothing unusual. I took one step down. Then another. The floor creaked under my weight. Halfway down, I stopped. Something felt off. I slowly turned around. The door at the top of the stairs was closing. I rushed up, but it slammed shut before I could reach it. Everything went dark. My flashlight flickered, then steadied. I grabbed the door handle and pulled. It didn't move. "Hey," I shouted, hitting the door. "This isn't funny." No response. Just silence. Then, footsteps. Behind me. Slow. Heavy. I stopped breathing. The sound was coming from deeper in the basement. But that didn't make sense. There was nothing down there. I turned slowly. The light from my flashlight shook in my hand. For a second, I saw something. A shape. Standing at the far end. Too tall. Too still. Then the light flickered again. And it was gone. I stumbled back, slamming into the door. "Open," I shouted, pulling harder. The handle turned suddenly. The door swung open. I didn't wait. I ran upstairs and didn't stop until I reached the living room. The basement door slammed shut behind me. I stood there trying to catch my breath. Then I remembered the cameras. I grabbed my phone and opened the footage. The video was still recording. I rewound it. Watched the basement door open. Watched myself walk toward it. Watched myself go down the stairs. Then I paused. Something moved in the frame. Inside the basement. Before I even stepped in. I zoomed in. My hands started shaking. There was someone already standing down there. Waiting. Perfectly still. Facing the stairs. Facing me. I slowly looked up from my phone. Toward the basement door. And then I heard it again. This time, right behind the door. Not distant. Not from below. Right there. Close. "You stayed," I didn't move. The voice was right behind the basement door. Close enough that it felt like it was speaking through the wood. "You stayed." My grip tightened around the phone. For a second, I thought about running. Leaving everything behind. The house, the cameras, everything. But something stopped me. If I left now, I'd never understand what this was. And worse, I had the feeling it wouldn't let me leave. I stepped back slowly. The house was completely silent again. No movement, no sound. Like nothing had happened. I didn't open the basement door again that night. Instead, I went upstairs and locked myself in one of the bedrooms. I pushed a dresser against the door, kept the lights on, and waited. At some point, I must have fallen asleep. I woke up to sunlight. For a moment, everything felt normal. Too normal. I moved the dresser, opened the bedroom door, and stepped into the hallway. Nothing looked out of place. I went downstairs. The basement door was closed, just like before, like it always reset during the day. I checked the cameras again. The footage from last night was still there. I skipped to the part where I went into the basement, paused it, zoomed in. The figure was clearer this time. Tall, thin, standing in a way that didn't look natural. Its arms hung too low. Its head slightly tilted. But the worst part, it wasn't just standing there. It was watching the camera, like it knew exactly where it was. I kept watching. The moment I stepped into the basement in the footage, the figure moved. Not toward me, toward the camera. The screen glitched for a second. Static filled the frame. Then it cut back. The basement was empty. No figure. Just me standing there unaware. I closed the video. My hands were cold. That afternoon, I went back into town again. This time, I didn't go to the store. I went to the local records office. If something happened in that house, there had to be something official. Something real. It took a while, but I found it. Old records, property documents, missing persons reports. The house had changed owners several times, but there was one name that kept appearing. Daniel Harper, the original owner. I found an old report tied to the address. A family of 4, all missing. No signs of struggle, no evidence of leaving. The case was never solved. But there was one detail that stood out. A note from one of the investigators. Neighbor reported hearing voices from the basement the night before disappearance. I felt that same cold sensation again. I asked the clerk if there was anything else. She hesitated, then handed me one more file. It was thinner, recent, only a few years old. Another report. Single occupant. Moved in alone. Stayed for 3 nights. Then called the police. Said someone else was inside the house. They searched the place. Found nothing. But the report ended with a short statement from the man. I saw myself in the basement. I left immediately after reading that. That night, I didn't set up anything new. I didn't move the cameras. I didn't prepare. I just waited. I sat in the living room, staring at the basement door. 3:16. My heart started pounding. 3:17. The lights flickered. Once, then again. And then, they went out. Total darkness. I stood up instantly. "Hello," I called out, my voice unsteady. No answer. Then I heard something upstairs. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and pointed it toward the stairs. The sound continued. Back and forth. Like someone packing. I moved closer. Step by step. The light barely reached the top. "Is someone there?" I said. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then, a voice. From upstairs. My voice. "Is someone there?" I froze. It repeated exactly what I had just said. Same tone. Same timing. Like an echo. But wrong. Distorted. I backed away slowly. "No." The voice upstairs spoke again. This time before I did. "No." My chest tightened. It wasn't copying me. It was predicting me. Behind me, something creaked. I turned. The basement door was open again. Wider than before. The darkness inside felt alive. The voice came from both directions now. Upstairs. And below. At the same time. "You came back. You stayed." I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't just around me. It was inside my head. Then everything stopped. The lights came back on. Silence returned. The house looked normal again. I stood there shaking. Then slowly, I looked toward the mirror on the wall. And my stomach dropped. My reflection was still standing there. But I had already taken a step back. It hadn't. It was still staring forward. Then, it smiled. I couldn't breathe. My reflection was still smiling. But I stepped back slowly. It didn't move. It just stood there, staring straight ahead, that unnatural smile still stretched across its face. Then very slowly, it turned its head. Not with me. On its own. And looked directly at me. From inside the mirror. I stumbled back and hit the wall behind me. "What are you?" I whispered. The reflection's lips moved. But the sound didn't come from the mirror. It came from behind me. "You already know." I turned instantly. Nothing. The room was empty. When I looked back at the mirror, everything was normal again. My reflection matched me. No smile. No movement. Just me. I didn't trust it anymore. Any of it. The house, the mirrors, the silence. None of it felt real. I grabbed my keys. This time I was leaving. I didn't care anymore. Answers didn't matter. I went straight to the front door, unlocked it and pulled it open. Cold air hit my face. The street was there. Same as always. Empty. I stepped outside. Walked to my car. Got in. Started the engine. For a moment, I felt relief. Like I had finally broken away from whatever that place was. I pulled out of the driveway and started driving. The road stretched ahead of me. Straight. Quiet. I kept driving for a few minutes. Then I noticed something. The houses. They looked the same. Not similar. The same. Same white paint. Same dry lawn. Same porch. Same rocking chair. Every single house. I slowed down. No, that's not possible. I looked in the rearview mirror, and my chest tightened. My house was still there, right behind me, like I hadn't moved at all. I hit the brakes, got out of the car, turned around slowly. I was back in front of the house, exactly where I started. I didn't remember driving back. The front door was open. I was sure I had closed it. The inside was dark. Waiting. I stood there for a long time. Then I heard it again. From inside. "Don't leave." Something inside me snapped. I ran back to the car, got in and floored the gas. This time I didn't look back. I just drove. Faster. Harder. The road blurred. The houses passed by. Then, everything went black for a second. I slammed on the brakes. The car stopped. I looked up and felt my stomach drop. I was back again. Same spot. Same house. Engine still running. Door still open. I started shaking. This isn't real. But it was. It felt real. Too real. I stepped out of the car slowly. This time I didn't try to leave. I just stood there, looking at the house. Then I noticed something different. The window. Upstairs. There was someone standing there, watching me. I couldn't see the face clearly, but I knew the shape, the posture. It was me. I didn't move. Neither did it. We just stood there, staring at each other. Then it raised its hand, slowly, and pressed it against the glass. I felt something cold touch my own hand. I looked down. My hand was moving, lifting on its own, like something was controlling it, pulling it upward, matching the movement. No stop. But it didn't stop. My hand pressed against the air, perfectly aligned with the figure in the window, like there was glass between us. Then it spoke, not loud, but clear. "You left once." My heart skipped. "I didn't. You came back." The front door slammed shut behind me. I turned. The house was no longer dark. Lights were on. every window glowing. I looked back up. The figure was gone. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A notification from the camera app. Motion detected basement. I stared at the screen, slowly opened the footage. The camera was still pointed at the basement door, but the door was already open, wider than I had ever seen it. The view inside was different. The stairs were gone. Just darkness. Endless. Then something moved. Not coming out, but forming, like it was building itself from the dark. A shape. A body. Becoming clearer. Becoming me. The video glitched. Then cut. I looked up from my phone. The front door was open again. Slowly, silently, and from inside, footsteps. Coming toward me, I didn't run. This time I couldn't. The footsteps were slow, calm, deliberate, getting closer with each second. From inside the house, I stood there frozen, staring at the open door. Waiting. Something was coming out. A figure appeared in the doorway. At first, it was just a shadow. Then it stepped forward into the light, and my mind went blank. It was me. Not similar. Not close. Exactly me. Same face, same clothes, same expression. It stood there, looking at me like I was the reflection. Like I didn't belong. Neither of us moved. The air felt heavy, like the world had stopped just to watch this moment. Then it tilted its head slightly. The same unnatural movement I saw in the basement footage. "You shouldn't have come back," it said. Its voice was mine, perfectly matched. "I never left," I said, my voice shaking. It smiled. That same wrong smile. Exactly. Something about that answer felt worse than anything else. I took a step back. It took a step forward. Perfect sync. Like it was replacing me. "Stop," I said. It stopped. Not because I told it to. Because it chose to. "You don't understand this place," it said. "I don't want to understand it," I replied. "I just want to leave." It shook its head slowly. "You already tried." I felt anger rise through the fear. This isn't real. None of this is real. It looked at me for a long second, then said quietly, "It becomes real when you stay." The words hit harder than I expected. Behind it, inside the house, the lights flickered again. Shadows stretched along the walls, moving in ways that didn't match anything. "I can fix this," it continued. "Fix what?" It stepped closer. "So you don't have to stay." I didn't like the way that sounded. "What does that mean?" It looked directly into my eyes. One step closer. Now only a few feet away. "It means you leave." A pause. "And I don't." My chest tightened. "You take my place," I said. It didn't answer. It didn't need to. I turned suddenly and ran. Not toward the car. Not toward the street. But inside the house. I don't know why. Instinct. Panic. Maybe I thought I could find something. Anything. A way out. I ran past the living room. Past the hallway. Straight to the basement door. I stopped in front of it, breathing hard. The door was already open, wider than ever before. Behind me, I heard the front door close. Then footsteps. Coming inside. I didn't turn around. Instead, I stepped into the basement. There were no stairs anymore. Just darkness. But I didn't fall. The ground was still there. Flat. Cold. I walked forward slowly. The air felt wrong. Heavy, like it wasn't meant to be breathed. Then shapes started to appear around me. Faint at first, then clearer. People, standing in the dark. Dozens of them. Maybe more. All silent. All still. As I got closer, I realized something. They all looked familiar. I raised the flashlight. The beam shook in my hand, and I saw their faces. Every single one of them was me. Different expressions, different positions. Some looked scared, some blank, some smiling, but all of them, me. I stepped back slowly. No, this isn't possible. A voice came from behind me. Not in front, not around, right next to my ear. You're just the latest. I turned. It was standing there. My double, but different now. More complete, more solid. This house doesn't take people, it said. It copies them. My head spun. Why? It looked around at the others, then back at me. So no one ever really leaves. The darkness around us shifted. The other versions of me started to move. Slowly, turning toward me. And now it said quietly, "There's no more space." The lights flickered, but there were no lights. The copies stepped closer, from every direction. I tried to move, but something held me in place. My double stepped right in front of me, close enough to touch. "You understand now," it said. I couldn't speak. It leaned closer, whispered, "You're the last one." Everything went dark. Everything was dark. But I wasn't gone. I could still feel myself. Breathing, standing, existing, just not in the way I used to. Slowly, light started to return. Not sunlight, not normal light. Something colder, flat, like a screen turning on. I opened my eyes. I was inside the house again. The living room. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Clean walls, quiet air, perfect silence. No basement door. No copies. No voices. Nothing. I walked toward the mirror slowly. My reflection was there, standing still, watching me. But I didn't feel right. Something was missing. Or added. I couldn't tell. I turned away, went to the front door, unlocked it, opened it. The street was there again. Empty. Still. The same town. The same houses. Everything identical. Like nothing ever happened. I stepped outside, walked to the car, got in, started the engine. This time I didn't drive fast. I just drove, quietly, carefully, watching everything. But something was wrong. The road didn't change, no matter how long I drove. Same houses, same street, same silence. I stopped the car, looked around. No, not again. I checked the mirror, the back seat, empty. Then I looked forward, and my hands went cold. There was another car ahead of me, parked in the middle of the road, blocking everything. I didn't see it before, but now it was just there. The driver's door opened. Slowly, someone stepped out. It was me. Again, but this one was different. Calm, certain, like it had been waiting for this moment for a long time. It walked toward my car. I couldn't move. My body wouldn't respond. It stopped right outside my window, bent down slightly, looked at me, and smiled. Not the broken smile, not the basement smile, a real one. Then it said, "You're not the original anymore." My throat tightened. "No, I am." It shook its head, softly. "You were," it said, "until you went back inside." My vision blurred for a second. I remembered everything. The basement, the copies, the voice, the house, the moment I stopped being first. I looked at it again. Then what am I now? It tilted its head, like it was thinking. "Proof," it said, "that it works." A long silence. Then it stepped back and pointed behind me. I turned slowly. The house was there, but it wasn't empty anymore. Windows were filled with faces, all watching me, all identical, all me. The front door opened on its own, and from inside, a voice, mine, but not mine. "Come back." I closed my eyes. For a second, just one. When I opened them again, I was standing inside the house. The front door was closed. Quiet, still, perfectly normal. I walked to the mirror. My reflection smiled first, before I did. And this time, I smiled back. Outside, the street stayed silent, like nothing had ever changed, like nothing ever would. But every night, around 3:17, the house remembers someone new, and it starts again.